Welcome to the Fearlessly Authentic Sash and Soul podcast, the show that goes beyond the stage, prioritizing a healthy mindset, overall well-being, and triumphs in the pageant journey. In each episode, we dive into the transformative power of embracing authenticity fearlessly.
From mindset mastery and self-care strategies to success stories that inspire, this podcast is your go-to guide for navigating the pageant world with confidence and resilience. Join us as we embark on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and celebrate the stories of those who fearlessly embraced their authenticity on the path to pageant success. I'm Lila Sherry.
And I'm Raeanna Johnson. Welcome to Sash and Soul. Hey everyone, welcome back.
Welcome back to Sash and Soul.
Hi Lila, how are you?
Hi, I'm okay, doing okay.
Yeah.
In all transparency, I'm sitting in a robe right now. So, one robe that Ray gave me actually. So we're chugging through the day. We will change at some point, and I do shower, so it's fine.
But that was my one thing. She's like, I promise I change out of this robe at some point, because the last 3 times that I've talked to her, she's been hanging out in this robe. And I'm like, look, I'm glad you enjoy it. I have a robe that I also hang out in all the time. And as long as hygiene is there, and she's like, I brush my teeth, I take a shower, it's all good. Okay, then we're good. Just do you. It's the summertime. You get to do whatever you want.
Thanks.
You're a has-been. You get to do whatever you want. Sit in your robe all day if you want.
Yeah. Nobody cares what I'm wearing now.
Nobody cares. And honestly, if I didn't know, that looks like a shirt to me.
I outed myself.
Because I wouldn't have recognized the robe that I bought you from Target. Right. Oh my gosh. Today has been a day of just trying to get all the things done on my to-do list. Things that I've been putting off, you guys, just appointments that I need to book. I have my psychiatry appointments and my doctor's always like, okay, when should we meet again? And we're always like, okay, how about 6 to 8 weeks? And then she's like, okay, give the number a call and schedule an appointment. And then I don't. And then I'm like, oh shoot, I need a prescription refill. So I'm doing that, scheduling the OB appointment, scheduling the dentist appointment. And then my husband and I are going to Italy for our 1-year anniversary. So we've got all these other things guys, we're going to draft a will. That's so crazy to me, but making sure that all my beneficiary stuff is updated and drafting a will as husband and wife, just in case, because you never know. And my family's been through enough tragedy that we don't want to put anyone through, the mess, because it's such a mess afterwards. But yeah, it's been one of those mornings for me. I got up, started drinking coffee. I'm on cup number 5. Staying motivated. Here we are. We're doing life. We're adulting today.
I feel like I have had a complete opposite morning when it comes to productivity. It's just been we're talking about physical health today, and I'm dealing with a few physical health things, especially this past week or so. And I'm on a lot of time-sensitive medications and antibiotics. So I have to set alarms pretty much throughout the night, which really sucks. So I haven't slept more than a normal amount's night's sleep in probably over a week, which is also really difficult. So yeah, I've not been productive, and I just sleep between all of these alarms, and I never actually feel fully rested, and whatever. It'll be over in another week or so, but the dichotomy of where you're at and where I'm at is really funny right now. But it makes sense.
It is.
Look at what we're talking about today. It all kind of aligns. We always try to talk about stuff that is at least somewhat relevant to what either we're going through or what we're experiencing with clients or whatever it is, because I think it's a lot easier to be real that way. So that's where we're at.
This is how we live out fearlessly authentic, is we take our own personal lived experiences and ways that we can relate to our clients on really personal levels and bring it to you guys. The feedback that we get from you guys is that you appreciate the real and rawness of our conversations and that it feels like we're all just like hanging out, having coffee or wine, whichever mood you're in. And this morning it's coffee. We're not to the wine yet, but tonight I'm watching Bachelorette with a girlfriend of mine, so we
Oh,
might have a little bit of red
fun.
wine. Yes, it's going to be good. But anyway, so we really try and live out and practice what we preach by being real and vulnerable and transparent as much as we're comfortable doing, because we also practice staying in our safe space as well when it comes to like just publicly airing out our laundry. Like it's
Yeah.
craziness. But I want to challenge you on something already, Lila. It's something that you said. You said you're not being productive. And one of the things we're going to talk about today, I literally just said this to her before we hit record as I was like, well, here's my like outline that I'm thinking of.
It's so, oh my gosh, it's very subconscious to me. I like really didn't even, I didn't try to do that. Like that was not set up. That's kind of crazy actually. Now I'm sitting here looking at
it's
myself.
it's I do it too though. Like when I am feeling down, when I'm having like a depressive episode, or I'm just exhausted for whatever reason, or I'm not feeling well, that's the first thing that I get frustrated with myself. Like I'm not being productive right now. And we say it to ourselves all the time. But what I want to challenge in this episode today, when we're talking about like your physical health and well being and your mindset, is flipping the script on what it actually means to be productive. And that productivity sometimes looks like rest.
Especially when it comes to physical health. I mean, that's no joke. That's nothing to play around with. I really, really know that after this last week, that without physical health, like you really have nothing. I mean, it's not, it should be priority number one for everybody. And so those that are going through physical health, like, I think it's a really toxic culture, especially in the States, when all of it is work and how much work you do and then what work you do. I mean, think about it. There are people from other countries that come to the US and they're like, why is all your small talk like, what do you do for work? Who cares? And that is just such a whole nother thing that we could talk about. But I think we've created a really toxic culture around work and around productivity. And so it's really interesting because I hope that we keep this in mind that when you go to other countries and other cultures, people will ask you, like, what makes you happy? What are some of your favorite things? What does your family look like? And those are the important parts of their lives. And that's their kind of small talk. And when it comes to here, it's like person equals the work that they do. And oh, I hate it. So I think that's
Mhm.
a huge part of it is like we even sacrifice our physical health for that. And to me, it's just, I mean, you can't do anything from a hospital bed. So it just, I don't know, it puts a lot of things into perspective.
Well, actually, I'm thinking as you're talking about like being in other countries and different cultures, like we're speaking from our experience from American culture, but we're a global podcast. We have listeners all over the world. And so I'd love to hear from any of you guys that are not here in America that are listening, like reach out, let us know like how your culture differs or how it's similar in that like the American values of the American dream, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, American made, like the things that we are constantly being told, like push through pain, no gain, the value of never taking a sick day, like all these things that are so deeply ingrained in our identity as Americans, and how like that really just causes more problems for us when it comes to our own physical health and our mental health. And the two kind of go hand in hand, which we can talk about today too. Like when you're not feeling physically well, your mental wellness goes downhill at the same time. And oftentimes, when you're pushing through high stress or pushing through and still like running ragged when you're not mentally feeling well, will cause physical ailments. The two really go hand in hand. So,
Mhm.
it's just really fascinating to think about like our culture versus other cultures. You think about the other countries in the world that have higher happiness ratings than we do. And like, why is that? And it's because, like you said, Lila, they value different things outside of work. They value the things that are wholesome, the things like family, the things like hobbies, the things that bring you joy. And there's really something to be said for that, that I think we as Americans could really take to heart.
Oh yeah. I mean, I this even popped up into my head from age 12 and under, they're giving out perfect attendance awards at the dance studio. And like we've been born and bred to equate our worth and our value to how much work or productivity or how often we are like going to a place. I don't know how else to say it, but it's a little bit sad actually, because I think when you have health scares and when you have situations where all of a sudden the only thing at the forefront of your mind is your physical health, and that if you don't get that fixed, nothing else will follow. And when you have those kinds of experiences, it puts a lot into perspective. Like I remember thinking last week, all of the stuff that I cared about before this, not all, a lot of the little stuff, let me say, not all, a lot of the little stuff that I cared so much about before this health scare, I just don't care. I just don't effing care about any of it anymore. And so I think it puts a lot into perspective. And so remembering that once you get to a point where like all of a sudden you're really worried about your physical health and none of this other stuff matters, did it really matter in the first place? Like that's kind of how I see it. So anyways, let's like actually get into how it could affect our mental, because it's difficult when you're bedridden, or I think of people with chronic illnesses that are battling health issues every day, right? Like it doesn't have to be one big scare. You're constantly working on your physical health. I mean, that takes a toll on you mentally.
It really does. And I see it in clients. You see it in clients. We see it in ourselves all the time. When we were reaching kind of the last month of preparation before state competitions, I had a couple of clients that were getting sick. Like one had the flu and another had like some kind of a digestion situation, infection or something. And their frustration with not being able to do the things that they had on their preparation plan, like the daily tasks of going to the gym or joining a group coaching call, or going to a mock interview that they had planned, or doing walking practice, or being able to like sing if that was their talent. The toll that that took on them of making them feel like they weren't doing enough and that they were somehow falling behind and wouldn't be prepared for state competition and to reach their goals, like it was that pressure that they were feeling of the time crunch and the inability to do all the things that they had prepared and planned to do, that was causing such a glitch in their mindset of making them feel like somehow they weren't going to do well, they weren't going to reach their goals just because they had this setback. And we can find ourselves feeling like almost this despair of not being able to see. It's like we have like the horse blinders on of all we can see is the yuck that we're feeling, the illness, the inability to be productive, quote unquote. And we sit in that and don't realize that we're going to bounce back. And I think that's the thing that is really important in terms of the way we talk to ourselves when we are ill or when we are injured, is that it's not forever. You're going to bounce back. I had that a similar situation with myself all last summer. Actually, it was really in the spring last year, 2023, after my brother died in a car accident. It was like 2 months before state competitions, and I was feeling this pressure of trying to be the best coach that I could be, meanwhile going through this very significant trauma and tragedy in my own personal life, and having to actually practice giving myself grace, which we're going to talk about today too. Like, what does grace actually look like for yourself? Not just saying the word, I'm trying to give myself grace, but actually practicing it, putting it into action. And for me at that time, it looked a lot like daily reminders, hourly reminders reminders by the minute, literally sitting for seconds and just like trying to just constantly think about how this is not forever. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to work through this. And it's okay that it's going to take some time to do that, but this is not forever. And just because I'm experiencing this, just because I'm not feeling well right now, doesn't mean that I'm still not a good person, doesn't mean that I'm not doing good things for the world. And that taking the time to heal in the way that I needed to was going to allow me to bounce back faster than if I tried to keep pushing through.
Yeah, I think that is really important. It's so hard for us, especially preparing for competition. I relate so much right now to the feeling like a good coach because I'm going through health stuff. Um, a few of my girls are competing like in a matter of a few weeks, and I'm like, I was kicking myself for a long time, like, of course this is happening now. Of course, when it rains, it pours, you know? But at the same time, who would I be if I didn't get any of that fixed and figured out and gotten the help that I needed from the doctors? And where would I have been in 3 weeks when they were competing? You know, like you just have to do it for yourself. And I think when it comes to giving yourself grace, I kept reminding myself, like, what if this was Logan in this situation? Or what if it was a close friend? Or what if it was you, Ray? Like, how would I have handled that? And how would I have talk to you or like wanted you to heal yourself first? Because putting it in that perspective, it's like I would not be telling Logan, get up and get in your desk and call the clients and make these quotes and all this stuff. Like I would never. And so to tell myself that feels a little bit silly and really mean actually to be able to be doing that to yourself.
Yeah, a lot of times you have to ask yourself, am I being mean to myself? Like there have been multiple times where I've said to Lila, "Ooh, that sounded kind of mean,
Yeah.
Lila, about yourself." I'll
Yeah.
call it out for my clients too. Like my therapist has done for me. Like that's how I learned how to do that, by the way. It's like, and I love it because I do it to myself, like, oh, that was mean. But I can hear the judgment sometimes too. And I'll be like, oh, that's a little judgy of yourself. Like anytime you hear the word like, oh, I should do this or I should do that, or things like the very judgmental terms. Are just harsh and they're not helpful. But I want to ask you, Lila, because you were there with me last year. You were there with me when my brother passed away. You were one of my clients. You were preparing for Miss Wisconsin. And like I was very honest with all of you guys. And I at first I didn't disclose everything that was going on, but I tried to like make up for, not being able to be at sessions because of the personal stuff I had going on. And I brought in somebody else to handle some of the group coaching calls and things like that. And I asked if you guys would be willing to just keep the group coaching calls, but just like do your own thing and have a good call together, kind of coach each other, which I think was a really awesome opportunity for you guys. But I mean, in response to what you were saying earlier,
Mm.
how did you feel toward me and about me as your coach when I was unable to be the coach that I had been because of the things that I had going on in my personal life?
Oh, I just remember first and foremost just hoping that everything was okay, that you were okay. Like I hope as humans when we hear that somebody's going through something physically or a tragedy like that, I hope that we can at least kind of put ourselves in that person's shoes and realize that like, yeah, a few group calls this week is not the priority, you know? And that was really first and foremost, like I just want her to be okay, right? Like who am I to think that my pageant prep is more important than somebody's family. You know, that was my perspective first and foremost. And second of all, I think as a client, it is my job to still do my prep and to make sure that I have my stuff together and to make sure that I'm meeting the deadlines and that I'm packed and that like you're not, you take it upon yourself. You should, anyways. But it's not this terrible, horrible thing if your coach can't be there constantly, or especially when they're going through something specific. Like it's still your job to prepare. you probably got enough information along the lines, right? Like we talk all day, every day, and now you have these podcasts that you could listen to, and now we have an app that you can download. Like you have enough information and you are capable enough to be able to do that for yourself if you've already been a client of ours. And that I think it was just a moment for me to be like, all right, like you have all the tools that you need to be able to handle this. You have, I mean, Ray has told me a million times that I am capable and that I'm the one that's going to be doing this. You're not getting on stage for me. I am. So it's ultimately my job to figure it out. Not that we're going to leave you high and dry because you were still checking in with us when you probably didn't need to be. But it's still my job. Like it is my responsibility anyways. And so it was a moment of like, yeah, let me do the thing, right? So that's what I remember. Those were the two biggest pieces. And it was never any resentment. I hope that none of your clients felt resentment. I don't think they did because you have some wonderful women. I never did. So,
Well, that's the joy of doing what I do, is
yeah.
being able to work with really incredible human beings that I learn so much from. And I get to be picky about that, guys, like selfishly, and I don't care. This is a selfish thing, but also the best thing that I could do for myself and for my business and for my clients is to, like, we do consultations and they're for you. Like I sit down on a consultation with you to see how I can help you. But if it's not a good fit, like if our personalities just don't mesh, or if you've got, some other need that I just know I can't fulfill, like I'm going to refer you to some other programs and kind of give you some advice on where else to go.
Right.
But I'm just not going to put myself through working with someone that depletes me, and drains me, especially like Lila said, like when you go through traumatic things and huge things in your life, there's just some stuff that you just don't care about anymore.
Mhm.
And that's not to say that things don't matter, because I think it's important, like I said to Lila a couple of days ago when we were talking, like, look, just because like you're going through something horrific, like I'm not I'm not feeling, or like no one else should feel like their smaller thing doesn't matter. Like all
Yeah.
of our stuff matters. And
Yes.
so just because you might be going through something really horrible, don't look at somebody else and be like, oh, why do you care so much? Like mine is so much bigger. Like it's
Right.
apples and oranges.
Right.
Everybody's experience is different. So don't judge yourself and don't judge other people's experiences that they're going through. But I want to touch on like taking accountability for your own preparation, and also recognizing how prepared you are, even if you have to take a week off, which, by the way, I've made my clients do, even though they weren't sick. Lila, yeah, raising
Also,
that hand.
I've now done that as a coach. I did that now too. So I'm on the other end of the table and I'm like, you know what? It actually makes a big difference. And people,
How productive was that
yeah.
week off that I made you take?
I think I came back more refreshed and I don't think I would have been Miss Wisconsin without that week off. I'll say it.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
But so tonight we're doing a Get Coach live recording with a former client of mine, Emma Griffith. She's Miss West Virginia Volunteer 2023, either 2022 or 20, from last year. She competed at Miss Volunteer America last year in 2023. And she competed for Miss West Virginia in MAO this past spring and was first runner up, but she didn't have the budget to come back and work with me. But something that she shared that I just feel so proud of is how much she just kept going back to the things that I had said to her and back to the skills that she had gained while working with me. Just because she couldn't work with me leading up to Miss West Virginia this year doesn't mean that she didn't already have the skills and the tools and the insight that she had gained from working with me last year that she could apply toward her experience this year at Miss West Virginia and have an incredible time because of that. And so when you think about when you have to take time off because you're injured, or you have to take time off because you're sick, or you have to take time off because of your mental health, that doesn't mean that you are losing any of those skills that you've gained. And it certainly doesn't mean that you are less valuable or have lost some sort of worth because of that time off. It's all still there. You have to trust yourself enough that you'll pick back up where you left off when you are well enough to do so. It's a little bit different when it's an injury and you've got, the physical therapy that you have to go through to retrain and rebuild your muscles, especially if you're an athlete or a dancer. And I get that. But for the most part, when you're talking about the skills that it takes to be a title holder, to do the job, none of that goes away. And in fact, going through obstacles like illness or injury actually make you a stronger person if you choose to take it from that vantage point.
I want to bring up this contestant because I've talked to her a little bit. She's interested in journalism. And so we had a good chat about that a few months ago. And she's in the teen category. Jersey, if you're listening, your talent, right? She had an injury with dance. I hope she's okay with me talking about this, but she talked about it on stage. So I think that's okay.
I cried, by the way.
I did too.
Cried during her talent. Continue.
I really it was incredible.
This is the best example of taking an obstacle and choosing to look at it from an empowering vantage point.
Yes, she had an injury with her leg or foot. She's a dancer, and it was like a couple weeks before competition, and it's like, yeah, I'd freak out too. And I remember telling her, "What can you control out of all of this?" And she came out on stage for talent in her beautiful costume that she would have worn. And she did a monologue about everything that she had experienced because of this injury and why she's up there now talking to us. I know that her dance would have been beautiful, but that moment that she had instead, I think you can't replicate that. And so like I just remember, I was so proud of her. I'm still so proud of her. And I hope she's listening because you're right. It is a perfect example of like the room stopped. The audience was dialed in, like everybody, there were probably a lot of tears. And it was just like you and I never like to say on behalf of an injury, you get this beautiful moment, but it's like you never would have had that. And I think a lot of people probably needed to hear that and to see that. And I think she proved to herself that day that she could handle that. And that's the most important part. So it gives me goosebumps still thinking
I
about
know
it.
it was so cool though, because I looked at you because I'm looking at the program book. I'm like, she's a dancer. Did we skip someone? Did we miss someone? And you're just like, just wait, just wait.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Okay. And then she started talking and she's like, she was literally approved to, walk without crutches like the day of her interview. Like it was just crazy how everything had lined up for her despite like this horrible thing that had happened. And I remember you telling me about like I think she had reached out to you shortly after the injury and was like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do? Like this is horrible." And sometimes you guys like I wrote down as Lila was telling the story, like, let yourself feel what you're feeling. We are not going to sit here and preach, like, just be positive. Don't freak out about it. Everything's going to be fine. No, we are anti-toxic positivity over here. So let yourself feel what you're feeling. But the rule of thumb is don't let yourself sit in that feeling. Like, if you're feeling down and out and frustrated, like, that's okay. That's normal. That's human feelings. Like, let yourself sit in that process, let yourself process it, but don't sit in it. Don't soak in it. Don't stay there. You got to keep moving forward. At some point, you have to start feeling the urge to be solution focused and figure out what your next steps are going to be.
And a lot of the times that comes with or after a break is when you figure out those solutions, when you actually like stop and just be. I see the difference between in clients' faces where, and I don't like to invalidate as it is, but sometimes, I mean, sometimes there is a time and place for a good pep talk, right? Like you got this, whatever it is. But I think then when you realize that's not working and that's not what they need right now, you see like literally in their face when you tell them, okay, you're allowed to feel overwhelmed. Feel that. And they're like, okay. And
Yep.
you can literally see it in their faces and the difference that it makes in where somebody's at mentally. So validation is huge when it comes to physical and mental and productivity. Like validate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason not to.
Yeah. There are how many times this last year, as when you were Miss Wisconsin, that I just was like, I'm looking at you and I'm like, Oh, okay. She needs somebody to be pissed off with her. Okay, I can do that for a little bit. Yeah.
A lot of those moments.
But then always what happened was, okay, Lila, we're pissed off. How long you want to be pissed off about this before
Right.
you get to a point where you're ready to do something about it? Because it feels better to be angry than to feel defeated. There's more power in that. There's more energy in anger than in defeat. So you go from defeat to anger, but then there's more empowerment in being solution focused and moving forward and building that forward motion than sitting in the anger, right? So we're going to climb the stairs of our emotions there, like feel defeated, feel down, feel out, and then get sick of feeling that way, and then get angry, and then get tired of being angry because there's only so much you can do with being angry, and then
Yeah.
start thinking about what are my next steps? Where am I going from here?
Yeah. Yeah. When you get sick of feeling, remember, I feel like I talked about this last episode.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying like, I don't remember what you asked me, but I said, well, I was just sick of feeling this way, and this was my only option. It's
I
true.
asked you what was the big change for you that you decided to like start doing the work on yourself mindset wise. And you said
Hmm.
you were just tired of feeling the comparison, tired of feeling like you weren't worthy, tired of feeling like, yeah, just all the mindset glitches. And it's, yeah, you get sick of being frustrated and you want to just do something about it.
Hmm.
That's powerful.
Hmm. And trust that you will get there. Don't try to rush the process. Don't tell yourself that you shouldn't be feeling XYZ. I
This
think
is a great segue into practicing grace. Like, how do we
yes.
actually practice having grace? And if we're talking about like let's just say there's so many steps in between, but if we're going to simplify and be like, okay, defeat, then anger, then solution. Okay, so those are the three steps that we're taking. In each step, grace for yourself, practicing grace is being okay with being on that step and trusting that you're going to get to the next step and feeling like, okay, this is just naturally part of this experience. And this is actually a productive part of this experience. So we have to stop thinking that your productivity, I said it at the beginning, has anything to do with your value or your level of success or your worthiness. Like when I say productivity, I mean being able to like check things off the list of things that you're doing, your to-do list, right? That productivity also looks like allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling and sit in that, take a break. Take a break and breathe. Because once you get to that next step of anger, you're starting to build that momentum of energy. You need that energy to get to that next step of how am I going to move forward? But you also have to give yourself that time of peace and that silence so that you can hear your own intuition tell you what you need to be doing next. Because if you're just sitting there and you're angry and you're frustrated and you've got all these judgmental things that you're saying to yourself, your head cannot hear your intuition telling you where you need to go from here.
That's so important. I'm glad you brought that up. It's like if there's all this noise and you're constantly trying to move, you cannot listen to yourself. Yeah. Whether that is your body, whether that is your mental health, whether that's your emotions, like do yourself a service of just like being quiet and slowing down. And I don't mean that literally, but you know what I mean, right? And I'm glad you brought that up because oh my God, is it true? And I didn't really realize that. And what you kind of do that naturally, right? But I think, and I've learned again this past week, we really want to be in control of things. We really want to constantly be, making the decisions for ourselves. And we preach that, Ray and I, right? Like you are capable, you are able to control a lot in your life when it comes to you and how you react to situations. But at the same time, there's a lot that your body can do and take over without you having to have this like horrible grip on what you think should be happening. And I don't mean just physically, this is mental health, this is your emotions too. Like you don't need to have such a grip on that because naturally your body will flow through and do what it needs to do regardless. Like trust yourself, you guys, trust yourself in the fact that you don't have to like be so in control and have this grip on everything that's happening.
We did this on Saturday. We were at the lake with AJ's family, his cousins. We're all about kind of the same age, and a lot of them had their kids that were there that were swimming. We were just hanging out and catching up, and it had been a while. And one of his cousins was chatting with me, and he, was congratulating me on all the things that are going on with Fearlessly Authentic and Sash and Soul. Because honestly, you guys, I'm going to try and get better at this. I'm considering trying to get better at this, of like posting stuff about my actual personal life on social media, not just about like business stuff. But it's like there are other things going on in my life. But it, like, all the stuff that's been coming out with the app and Sash Soul reaching, like, now we're over 3,000 downloads. But announcing the 2,500 download mark, like all this really cool stuff, and Lila coaching with me. And he's like, man, you are just busy. Like, you must be constantly on the go. And I was like, actually, no. All of this stuff has come from me having fun with it. And I have a rule for myself that if I'm not in a good space, I will take the day. Like, I will not work on things that require my passion and my
Inspiration.
my thank you, inspiration. Like, I will not force myself to work on projects when I'm not feeling inspired, when I don't have that positive momentum flowing, when I don't feel connected to the work that I'm doing. The most beautiful things have come out of me allowing myself to take that time off, to let my brain quiet down so that I can hear what my gut is telling me. And that's where all of these projects are coming from. And I finally understand what people have said my entire life about, like, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And it's so true. Now, there are things that I don't like doing that I have to do, but those are the tasks, like the business end of the tasks, that, like, the accounting stuff that, like, I don't love, but I don't really need to be inspired for any of that stuff, right? But it's this other cool stuff that is driving Fearlessly Authentic and Sash and Soul forward. I know, Lila, you've had a lot of these experiences too. Like, when you're in that space of allowing yourself to be quiet and feel the inspiration and not force yourself to work when you're not feeling it, that's when really cool stuff happens.
Mm. Biggest takeaways from all of this, because I feel like we could talk about this forever. But first and foremost, okay, let's think about somebody that might be going through health stuff or mental health stuff, maybe right before a competition. What's the first thing that you do? You validate yourself in feeling like, yeah, this is awful timing. It probably is. Let yourself feel icky about it. Allow that to be something that you're not just pushing out of your mind, or even trying to like battle with yourself about why this happened. Like, if I had done this, maybe that wouldn't have happened, or if I hadn't done XYZ, maybe that would have happened. Let's not do that, right? Just validate the fact that you're here and you're feeling icky. Then what?
Well, we say that's step one, but it's an ongoing step of continuing to validate yourself. And the other piece of the step one with the validation is being self-aware of when you're being judgmental of yourself, of when you're saying mean things to yourself, like the just get up, you're being so lazy right now. Like, other people are working hard when they're sick, like you can do it too. Like, the comparison to other people, like when you don't actually know what they're going through, like there's a lot of mean judgmental stuff that we can do in our heads. So that's kind of an ongoing piece of step one, but it's so true. That's a huge part of it. The next step is to kind of decide what you're capable of doing. Like, if it's mindless stuff that you can do when you're injured, or when you're like just mentally not feeling well, but they're just like tasks that you need to get done, like, yeah, see if you can get those things done, but be okay with not completing your entire to-do list that day. And I think, giving yourself that time for your brain to quiet down. One of the things I had talked that I had written down was overthinking. Anytime that you find your mind spiraling, it's really just your brain coming up with all the problems that probably don't even exist, and trying to like fortune tell all the problems that might happen, and then trying to solve those problems. And it just keeps going around and around and around and around. So recognizing that that's happening, finding some distraction, like giving yourself the grace to see rest as productive.
And then actually rest.
Do the resting.
Last step.
Going back to the self-care practices, all the things, personal hygiene, like sit in that robe all day if you want to, but please take a shower and brush your teeth. Like that's all I'm saying.
I can do that.
Lay in bed if you need to for a few days, a little bit later than you usually would, but don't lay in bed all day. Like get up, move to the couch, turn on a sitcom, like something to just kind of keep yourself moving. And also like if it's to a point where like there's cause to be concerned if you're not actually doing the extra step of getting medical care or mental health care, like do that too.
Mhm.
Because we're not sitting here saying like, do these steps and you'll be great. No, sometimes you got to do those steps and then some. And then you also need to require some other help. Like Lila, rest and relaxation was not going to help you with your medical situation that happened, over the last couple of weeks. Like you
Right.
needed doctors and medicine. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, like there's a whole combination of things. So we're not saying like it's as easy as step one, two, three.
Right.
Those are just the helpful first steps to get you moving and get you in the right direction, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. All the physical stuff that we're talking about is so case by case, right? Like Ray came up with, the mental health aspect of it. I'm over here talking about physical health, but this is all case by case. Please, you guys know what to do with your own bodies. Again, you are capable and listen to your bodies. But I think we really want to emphasize, the mental part that comes with, because a lot of those feelings are the same. Whatever you're going through physically or mentally or emotionally when it comes to health, a lot of the residual feelings of, like we talked about, not feeling productive or getting mad at yourself or comparing yourself to others, like that is a lot of the same types of feelings. And so that's really what we're talking about. We are not equipped to give medical advice. So nobody listen to that part. We're not giving medical advice. But yeah, a lot of these residual feelings are true throughout a lot of the same health issues, especially when it comes to women that are constantly on the go and want and love doing things and genuinely like being productive, and it makes them feel good. And so it's difficult when that's taken away too. When you equated a lot of like the endorphins and the dopamine from getting those tasks done, it's difficult when you can't do that anymore. So we're talking a lot about, before we go, we're really talking a lot about those feelings and the emotions of the residual effects of not being able to do things because of your health.
We got to touch on this before we go. This is so important because you talked about women in particular on the go constantly. I asked you the other day, okay, what can you control right now, Lila? And you were like,
I was like, nothing.
nothing. And I, I was like, oh, okay. It's just reminding me of any time that like you're talking to someone that's so busy and they're giving you the laundry list of all the things and you're just like, oh, you need to take some time for you. And they're like, I can't do like I can't get rid of anything on my list to take time for me. Like, and I truly get the feeling of that, of feeling like you really cannot drop anything. But I'm going to challenge that because it's just true. Like, okay, and I know that there are circumstances. There are, you know, other circumstances that like I don't want to get into the weeds of that. But more often than not, when I'm saying like what can you take off your plate and you say nothing, like I'm gonna challenge that. And you should challenge yourself too. Because Lila and I literally talked for about an hour of like looking ahead at her schedule where I'm like, all right, like you are your own boss as a contracted coach under Fearlessly Authentic. However, I'm still your mentor and it's still my company. So I'm going to look at you and say, all right, if it would be better for you to take time off than for you to try and coach, then you need to do that. Like your clients will be okay. And sometimes you need somebody else to say that to you. Like
Mhm.
it's going to be okay. The world is not going to end.
Mhm.
Um, So I just think that's something really important for all of us to consider too, is like, is it really true that we can't cancel something or we can't put something off until tomorrow? I mean, my therapist said to me once, like when I was really stressed, like feeling like I couldn't let go of anything on my schedule. And even when I did have time off, I was still frustrated with myself and struggling. And she's like, well, gosh, it sounds like you need to give yourself permission to have downtime. Like actually plug it into your calendar of like off. And sometimes just doing that action can help you let go of this like abstract idea that you're supposed to be doing something, or you've got this long to-do list and you need to be doing that. And if you're not doing that, then you're lazy or you're not productive or you're not strong enough or, you know, driven enough or whatever. Like if for some reason you not getting your to-do list on that day is going to cause a judge not to pick you as the winner, like as if that is actually true.
Right.
So we got to challenge ourselves in that as well.
I think that's all I got.
That's all I got to.
Take care of yourself, please, first and foremost. I know
Mm-hmm.
that we talk a lot about pageantry and competition or business, but none of that is going to be its full potential when you're not taking care of yourself first. We're
Yeah,
humans. Yeah, go
and
ahead.
have you noticed that we get sidetracked from like pageant competition talk quite a bit because we're,
Uh,
we're actually just talking about you guys taking care of yourselves and the importance of that.
like
Um,
humans, like just be a human. Me and Logan joke sometimes. If things are really stressful or if we're worried about work or whatever it is. Logan even said the other day as we were coming home from the hospital, he was like, we were just meant to frolic in a field and pick flowers, Lila. Like, just feel the sun on your skin, honey. And I was like, thanks, Logan. Like, I really needed to hear that because I'm coming back, kind of from a hiatus and being like, oh my God, I have all this stuff to get done and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, we weren't meant to work. And it's kind of a joke for us because obviously, like, I do love what I do and there are reasons to work. But I just think that, I mean, I think it's also an important sentiment to keep in mind. Like, we're not machines, we're not robots, we're not, like, we're humans and treat yourself as such.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that brings up just my final thought for the day is that right now you might be in a place in your life where you've got like really solid structured goals that you're going towards, like the one and done type of goals, meaning like you're going towards college graduation or you're getting your master's degree or some kind of a doctorate level degree of some kind, or you're going for a pageant competition and it's your last shot, or like your long-term slash short-term goal is to win a state title and get to the nationals. Like you're constantly working towards something. And one of the biggest adjustments for me after I um, gave up my title of Miss Wisconsin was recognizing that like I don't really have any goals like that anymore necessarily. Like I went through this whole phase of like, do I need to go for my master's so I have something that I'm working towards? Do I need to consider competing for something else? Like I just had this like it was just part of my identity that I needed to be working towards something. But what I've learned as a business owner is that I no longer have any ultimate goal that I'm striving for. I just get to work on fun things. And once I accomplish that, it's the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. So it has released this pressure on me of feeling like I need to scramble to get something done or to reach this particular goal. And I think that's why I've allowed myself to just breathe and take the time that I need to get back to feeling inspired and getting back to feeling that momentum of moving forward and doing really cool things. So if you're in a space of not feeling well, or if you're in a space of being injured, try and release that pressure of like time is running out, because time is not really running out. I understand that you have time sensitive goals because of age limits and things like that. But ultimately, like we're all here on this earth to just continue growing and evolving. And we're always going to have new goals that we're going towards, but it's not the ultimate end all. So try and give yourself a little bit of reprieve from feeling that pressure of time is running out and you're not doing enough.
Well said. We'll end it
Thank you.
there. I hope
Perfect.
Good takeaway.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. Lila, continue healing. I'm
Thanks.
gonna continue my productivity today as best as I can until all of a sudden my productivity wanes. I'm noticing that it's very much like a hormonal cycle for me. And now that I'm tracking all that on an app, I get notifications of like, you're gonna be the most productive this week. And I'm like, excellent. And then I have like the notifications where you're like, your energy is going to start to falter now. So maybe it takes some time. And I'm like, oh, thank you.
That's a whole nother thing that we have not touched on. And my therapist even said this. She was like, people joke about hormones, LOL, right? But no, she said she was like, hormones are everything. So, okay, we can actually end it now because we could seriously go on and on every single episode. But like, you keep that in mind, ladies. I'm so serious.
Stay tuned for the PMSing episode. Take care of yourselves. We will talk to you next week. Don't forget to download the app. Check out the application for the Get Coached Live. Those are going to be pumping out here as we've got quite a few Get Coached Live clients lined up. We're super excited about it. But until next time, enjoy the sunshine and go easy.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye. If you aspire to be as confident and accomplished as the women we talk to on this show, then this exclusive opportunity is tailor-made for you. I'm offering a complimentary, fearlessly authentic coaching consultation designed specifically for women like yourself. Have you ever compared yourself to others or worried you're not good enough? Do you get nervous about public speaking and always second guess the things you've said? I've been there myself and have helped countless women conquer their private interview and onstage question, feel confident on and off stage, showcase their authenticity and purpose, and ultimately win the title of their dreams. In the Fearlessly Authentic Coaching Program, you will develop award-winning interview skills, transform your platform, become a public speaking expert, overcome self-doubt, comparison, and imposter syndrome, and be 100% prepared to not only win, but to succeed with your dream title, whether that's local, state, national, or even global. Don't let doubt or hesitation hold you back any longer. Take the first step toward your success and sign up for your complimentary, no obligation coaching consultation today. Simply visit fearlesslyauthenticcoach.com/consultation and reserve your spot. Remember, your journey to greatness begins with a single decision. Join the ranks of empowered women who dare to be fearlessly authentic. Thank you so much for listening, and here's to the confident, unstoppable you.